What's going on, everybody? It's Will from Hermens Outdoors, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys my trout fishing setup from the bank. I've had a few of you guys reach out and say, hey, what kind of setup do you guys have when you're bank fishing, either plunking with power bait or whether you're throwing spinners? And so I want to just take this video really quickly and show you guys what kind of setup I've got and show you the two different rod setups I've got. One, I've got an older rod here, and then I got a newer rod on my setup. So I'm gonna show you guys what setup I have, and hopefully it'll help you guys catch some more fish. So let's take a look. All right, so for starters, I've got here the oldest rod in my collection. This is an Abu Garcia Bronco graphite composite. This was the first rod that I ever got as a kid. I think when I was about 5 years old. My dad gave this to me as my first trout rod. So still have it. It still works great. I had to replace the original reel on it. Unfortunately, that broke a few years ago, but I've got a new Abu reel on here. In fact, it's the SX40 Cardinal. Really nice reel, super smooth. I've got about a 12-pound monofilament line on here from P-Line. Nice and smooth and easy, good reel action on that. So just a simple setup on my older trout setup rod. All right, so then what does it come down to from the rest of the setup? So I've got my main line here down, and I'm gonna try to get as close as I can to you guys. So what I've got here, it's a sliding weight. So this is from Oregon Tackle. It's a sliding weight down to a 6mm ruby bead. And what this does is the bead protects the weight from smashing into this tie, going from your main line to your swivel. And so that bead just protects that line for one thing. And then the second thing is, and this is, I think, one of the things that I've learned recently trout fishing, and I've gone to this setup more, is that when you're plunking off the bottom and this weight's sitting here and your baited rig is floating up, what the sliding weight allows is when the fish comes and grabs that, it can free pull the line through the weight. So there's less resistance, and that's good for a couple reasons. One, if you have one of those older inline weights, the fish will feel that tension, and sometimes they'll grab the bait and then let it go. They'll feel that tension, like there's something there, and they'll spit it out for whatever reason. What I found with the sliding weight is because the main line runs through it, the fish will take it and keep going and basically just hook themselves, and they'll swallow the hook more and they'll get it in their side as they're trying to grab that bait, because there's basically little to no tension. Whereas if you've got the inline weight, there's just more of that tension and they just seem to spit it more. So there's a couple advantages to the sliding weight on this. So I've got a weight to the bead, tie my main line to a swivel. Again, I like to go with a bigger-ish swivel. Just personal preference. And then what I've got tied here for my leader is about 6-pound mono. Again, I like a thinner mono from my leader. So for hook, I've got a size 12 Gakumatsu bait hook. And the reason why I like the size 12 is that it's big enough to put a good amount of bait on the hook and keep it on there. And these Gakumatsu hooks are super sharp, so you should be able to keep most of your fish. They should go in there nice and easy, and I just like them because, again, like, you can put more bait on there, and I feel like I catch more fish with bigger hooks. I've gone and used smaller hooks or trebs before, and I just don't feel like I get a big enough landing ratio compared to these bait hooks. So this is kind of my setup here, where I've got for my trout rod. So to share some of those components, so this is the weights. They're Oregon Tackle. They're called the egg sinker weights. Now these are 3/8 ounce. Now for trout fishing, I don't typically like to go more than a ½ ounce when I'm bank fishing. These 3/8 weights on this setup, I can cast, a country mile with this thing, especially at this weight. You can get it pretty far out there. You can go down to a 1/4 ounce or even a 1/3 of an ounce, but 3/8 seems to be a nice distance where I can chuck it out there a lot farther than a lot of other people. And when you're bank fishing, yeah, sometimes you want to keep it in close, but if you're in certain situations, lakes, ponds, where the fish are a little bit farther out and it's a little bit deeper, casting farther is going to give you an advantage. So pack in some 3/8 weights what I would say, and then grab some 1/4 ounces as well, and take both with you. I just like 3/8. That's my personal preference. So for the beads, I got these from Fisherman's Marine at my local store, and these are size 6 ruby. These are from Yakima Bait Company, as you can see there. And again, those are just to protect the weight from hitting your tying from your main line down to your swivel. I like the red because I can see it better. I don't think like chartreuse or other green colors I like as much. It's just personal preference. You guys can go with whatever you want. I just like a size 6 bead, just big enough to make sure that weight doesn't bang into the swivel. So then, as I said, for hooks, I said size 12 Gakamatsu. You get them in a 10-pack in the store. I will run through one of these maybe every couple of months. These are amazing hooks. They're super sharp. Even if you're taking the pliers and pulling the hooks out of your trout, you shouldn't have any problems. Like those hooks shouldn't break. I've had problems with other hook types from other hook companies where I'll take the pliers and I'll bend them or I'll snap them out of there, maybe just because I'm just a little bit too strong. But I just like these the most, and they're super sharp, and I don't go through a ton of these, which is good. So I can buy 1 or 2 of these packets and should last me basically the whole spring when I'm out plunking with trout for trout. So then in terms of the setup, so what we've got here is a setup for plunking or bottom fishing. So your weight will sit on the bottom here, and then your hook will have power bait on it and slowly raise a little bit off the bottom. And you're trying to keep that bait off the weeds and stuff. And so one of the things that I would recommend when you're going places is to try different leader lengths depending on where you're at. If it's a place that you know that you're comfortable with and you know what that length should be, perfect. If you're not comfortable or don't know the area, play around with the different depths and stuff. But typically with this setup, I'll go with just a straight power bait, and I'll make a nice pea size right around the hook, maybe sometimes a little bit bigger. I think in the later part of the spring when there's some bigger fish that I'm targeting, I'll go with a little bit bigger of a bait, but I'll just get a little pea sized out of there to start, lump it around that hook. And then you can add a little bit of scent to it as well. I'm not much of a scent guy. I can just catch them, I think, with the power bait without adding in any sprays or gel scents. But later in the summer, what I would say is when you would want to start to add scent. But basic setup, you want some power bait. I go with the glittery extra scent for the most part. Again, you can get these at any retail store. You can get them online. For me, I have a variety of different colors that I keep in my tackle box, probably at least 10 at all times, depending on which lake or pond that I'm going. And I have different colors, different scents, some glitter, some not glitter. Again, you want to just have that variety so when you're going out there that you can give yourself an advantage to figure out what the fish maybe you're targeting that day and get on them. All right, so that was for plunking from the bank or fishing off the bottom. Now, if we're talking about fishing with spinners, this is the rod reel setup that I've gone with recently that's caught me all of my fish when I've been fishing with spinners or Kastmasters or Rooster Tails or whatever that is. So I've gone with an Okuma SST. Now this rod is 7'6". When you're talking about salmon rods, you're talking 8.5, 9s, into the 10 range. I like a 7'6" for trout just because of that smaller, you want to be able to cast out farther. And so I like that smaller rod to be able to get out there farther. Now this is rated for 2 to 6 pound, which is what I've got here on my main line. I think I've got 8 pound on here, so a little bit heavier than what's recommended. But this is what I've gone with for a setup. And then from a reel perspective, I've got the ROX30 from Okuma as well. And so this reel and then this SST 7'6" with the 2 to 6, I'm able to cast out really far. And I think one of the advantages when you're fishing for trout, whether it's early spring or middle of the, later in part of the spring or early in the summer, is being able to cast those spinners out really, really far. And so for me, this rod reel combo, I'm able to huck it out there a long ways. And I think when I'm out on the ponds and I see other people come up and ask like, oh, what are you catching them on? And I'm saying spinners, and they're throwing the same type of stuff and they're not catching any fish. I think it's just because sometimes I'm able to cast out a little bit farther. And so that just seems to give me an advantage. This rod reel combo, you guys have seen me fish with this in a couple other videos. I love this combo. And so I would recommend, if you're looking for a new trout rod reel or something that's specific for flinging spinners, this is the setup I would go with. From a line perspective, I got some P line on here. This is braided 10 pound. I've got it in the green color. Try to match some of the lakes and ponds. For me, this line is also super light and you're able to cast it out there really far with that spinner. All right, so spinners. So when you go to the store or you maybe have some old tackle from your dad, your grandpa, or just whatever, you know, spinners, there's so many of them. There's so many different colors. And for me, for trout fishing, what I personally like a little bit of variety of colors. I like to stick with spinners in the darker colors. So black, brown, and then silver, or even that bronze and gold colors are typically what I fish the most. For the most part, when I'm getting spinners from the store, I'm getting Rooster Tails in a variety of colors. Now, I like a 1/4 of an ounce or a 1/6 of an ounce is usually what I go with. And that's when I'm casting out with my rod reel with about 1/6 of an ounce or a 1/4 of an ounce, I feel I can get it out there quite a ways. So you don't need to go super heavy on the spinners. Again, I've been doing a lot with a 1/6 of an ounce recently with these Rooster Tails and seem to be doing really well. And then I got here is a 1/4 ounce Kastmaster, which can get out a little bit farther. And that's one where you're kind of almost jigging a little bit off the bottom as you're reeling it in, kind of just getting that action of the jig diving down a little bit and then jumping up. And so for these, they have different sizes. I like a 1/4 of an ounce because with the Kastmasters, I like to get it out there a little bit farther in the water in some of the deeper columns from the bank, and that seems to be really successful. The silver and the chartreuse is the color that I actually like the most. On the Rooster Tail, I don't know if I have a personal color that I would go with. I've had success on a lot of different colors. If you're gonna pick one from the store, go with the black with the silver blade, because on the bright sunny days, that black spinner is pretty good. I think it's because it's good because it's dark in the water column and that silver blade that's spinning around gets the fish attention. So definitely, these would be my go-to from a spinner standpoint. And then what I've gotten into recently is a Rooster Tail spray. So this is something that that I've gotten into a little bit recently. And again, I'll just spray a little bit down by the hook. Again, you don't need to spray too much. I seem to be landing more fish with this spray. So if you don't have this in your arsenal yet, give it a shot, add it in, and see what it does with your Rooster Tails in particular. I haven't tried it with any spinners outside of the Rooster Tail because this is made specifically for the Rooster Tail. But what I've heard is you can use this on other baits, whether it's salmon fishing, kokanee fishing, steelhead, or whatever. So give it a shot. So the 4 flavors of Rooster Tail scent that I usually carry are trout, trophy trout, garlic, and nightcrawler are the 4 that I typically carry. And again, like I said, I only usually put them on the Rooster Tail spinners because that's just kind of what I think works best. Again, you guys go out there and experiment. I'll keep experimenting and kind of figuring these things out. But if you're using spinners from the bank, this is what I would use. This is your success formula right here. Try different spinners, and you got your Rooster Tail scent. Should be a deadly combo, and if the fish are there, they're gonna bite super hard, so get ready. So thank you guys for watching the video on my trout fishing setup for bank fishing in particular. One with my plunking setup, and then the other with my casting setup. So hope you guys learned something new today. Again, give that thumbs up. Drop a comment below if you guys have different power bait scents, spinners, spinner scents that you guys like. Definitely share those out. Hopefully this information you guys can use this the next time you go out and be able to catch some more fish. I like the sliding weight. I think that's one of the best things that I've come across in the last couple of years that I've put into my arsenal when it comes to trout fishing. So hopefully you guys can put that together, check it out, and get out there and test it out and see if you guys land more fish. So thank you guys for watching as always, and until next time, the outdoors is a gift. Share it with others.